Tony Hawkins has got a podcast. I hope he's better at this than he is washing the kit, because he was fucking useless.
Yeah, like I say, Tony, I've been awake for over 18 hours, mate, so I don't know what's going to happen tonight, I got to be honest. I think you must be mostly doing most of the heavy lifting this week, mate, I got to be blunt.
It's all that excitement from winning a game, it must be.
God, I'll be honest with you, but like I said earlier on, I'm be as ill as it's possible to be and yet still not be dead. Just...
That's quite an achievement, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, see you, Tony, that's you all over, isn't it? Like, you're a glass half full man for the off, aren't you, you know? Whereas I'm thinking, God almighty, will this shit
Look at me,
ever
I'm not dead.
Yeah, look at me, I'm still here, yeah. I'm munching on my Wednesday night normal feast of pizza and red wine.
Yeah.
Well, been an alright week, Tony. We've lost one, we won one. What can you say?
Yeah, it's all good, isn't it? It's...
Oh!
Yeah, we've won a game and we scored
Tony.
2 goals.
It's so good. Have you watched it, Tony? Did you watch the last episode?
No,
last
I can't be asked, mate. I started the first series and I just got bored.
Really? Oh, mate.
Yeah, I just didn't like his brother, if I'm honest.
I'll be honest with you, Tony. It's 63 hours that you've got to spend to watch that, because it is quite literally that good. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil it for people that have not watched it. I could do, so I'll spoil it now.
But Bruce Willis is a ghost.
Shall I spoil it now? For everyone, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? No, I won't do that. So,
just in case I do decide to watch it at some point, but I probably won't.
Oh, I mean, how can you possibly go 63 hours without knowing what happens at the end of it?
Yeah, I suppose so, but I probably won't watch it. But, I mean, you can spoil it if you want, but I'm not going to listen.
I'm not going to.
La 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 la. Are you done?
There you go, I'm done, yeah. Finished.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, 2 games.
Did you go to Ipswich?
I didn't go to Ipswich. I chose not to for reasons that are now becoming quite prevalent in my latter years, he said, at 51.
Ooh.
I took the decision not to go for 2 reasons. One, I couldn't be asked.
That's the best reason, mate.
Yeah, but 2, I just couldn't face trying to sit in those fucking seats again. You have to be 4'2" to be comfortable in the seats at Ipswich. Also, the away bar is shite as well. So no, I didn't go. Neither did you, and no one sent us a match report. However,
I've got a match. I've got 2 match reports from young Albie. So
yeah,
I can either read it out now, or I can give it its own podcast, because it's quite literally about half an hour long, this thing. It's up to you. Can we save it for later on?
We could serialise it.
I could do, because it's quite literally fucking amazing. Yeah, it's very long, but good luck to the guy. I mean, I spoke to someone last night. I'm not going to name him. I'm going to name him. It was John Samuel. Yeah. And he said that Saturday, this was in Lewington's before kick-off last night, he said that it looked pretty much dangerously close to a Robbie Nielsen sort of performance. It was that bad on Saturday. I mean, I was the only listener on the wireless, and you can only go by what they're saying on social media.
I listened to the radio, and it was clear. I've got Lisa Spearman. I spoke to her again about it last night, and she is the optimist of all optimists and the bright side of all bright sides. But she just said it was bad. It was just generally bad. Joe Clough 06 on Twitter.
Oh.
He said Dennis should have scored. Did you see that header that he put over?
I've not watched the highlights, to be quite honest. You've just reminded me.
He seemed to go up vertically and not sort of get any direction on it. I don't know if it was just too high for him. Anyway, he should have scored, but I'll let him off, he says. Otherwise, barely out of our own half. Johnson miles worse on the pitch. Surprised given how good I thought he was on Saturday. So it would appear, and again, this seems fairly unanimous, that Bradley Johnson was awful at Ipswich. I've kept quiet about Bradley Johnson because I expected big things from him. I mean, last night, obviously, that was nice. But I do see him, and I'm going to make a bold prediction, which may or may not come to fruition. But I think he could be our most important player this season, and could end up being player of the season.
I've just
because he is spectacularly good.
I've just read something really interesting on Twitter about him. He is now officially our oldest ever goal scorer.
Yeah, which
it surprised me because I didn't think he was that old. To be quite honest,
it's not that. I knew how old he was, but I didn't think 35 for a goal scorer was old. But then I suppose if your club is only 3 weeks old, it might not be so much of a surprise.
He was already ready to retire when we first moved to Milton Keynes, when it sounded things.
So go on and get us. If I get bored with Albie's report, I'll just stop.
Well, I've just got a mouthful of pizza, so you're going to have to talk for 5 minutes.
All right, I'll talk for 5 minutes then. Yeah, so in general, the reports that I've got from people and talking to them last night was that it was just generally bad all round. Nothing really to take from it at all whatsoever.
What I took from it, Tony,
we got that from the radio as well, didn't we? I mean, It wasn't like you couldn't take anything from the radio other than this isn't very good. And Toby is not good at the whole media sort of facade. He tells it how it is as a Dons fan, and you can hear the disappointment in his voice and in his in his tweets and what he's saying about thinly veiled and trying to hold back somewhat on what he wants to really say, because Saturday sounds like an interesting comparison. Actually, someone saying Nielsen, because it felt like that a little bit at Cambridge. I know it was the first game of the season, but it did feel like we were not really had any sort of plan on winning the game. Which sounds silly, because Liam Manning is a fantastic coach and we were amazing last season, obviously. I don't go for the whole punching above our weight, and, the team that we had last season was much better, because as we well know, many clubs have done it. You can create a winning team from players that aren't necessarily as good as other players that play for other teams. But at the same time, you can't say that we're still only 3 league games in. Hold on, 4 league games in,
mate.
And we've got a win, and we've got 2 goals on the board. We almost had a clean sheet, but for what appeared to be one that just went past everyone.
Yeah, very annoying that. I wasn't as ill last night as I am tonight, but I wasn't well, so I just thought, what? Fucking just what I need this isn't for them to score 2, like for them to do an old Swansea. Did you see that last night? See what happened with them?
Do you know, we were walking out of decided whether or not to walk back to the car while it was absolutely hammering it down. Oh
man, did it rain last night? I was pleased to see that rain, I must admit.
Yeah, and I was checking the scores, and I'd seen that Swansea were 2-0 up, and I thought, he's probably saved his job again, because they're getting a bit tetchy, aren't they?
They are a bit, more tetchy now after that.
Yeah, and then I think, was it 93rd and 95th minute or something like that, and both own goals.
I know.
Which I only realised a short while ago when I looked to see when the goals
went in. Do you
think,
Tony, that perhaps they weren't rid of him? The players are sick of him.
Quick, let in 2 goals. Just
we're going to win this.
I mean, this is it, isn't it? It was exactly the same for us. Now, in hindsight, we can say that it was very much a blessing in disguise, because Liam Manning has come in and he's taken what was a good idea and made it work, and added a few bits and taken away the silly mistakes and that sort of stuff. But Championship clubs, one like Swansea, is not going to be given a huge amount of time if they carry on as they are. But
I wonder how many Millwall fans were already on the M5 heading back to London, the M4, whatever.
Well, I did see a video on Twitter, some Millwall fans outside the ground who had already left at 2-0. I mean, even if you left in the 92nd minute, which you could say would be acceptable if you had a train to catch, or you wanted to get back to your car for a quick getaway or whatever.
That was funny.
92nd minute, there's nothing worse than missing a goal, but you have the consolation of it being 2 goals that gets you a point, which after 93 minutes when you left,
you don't deserve.
Looked highly unlikely. Yeah. So why are we talking about that idiot anyway?
I'm going to read young Albie's thing. Now, if you've got 5 minutes, I suggest you go and make a cup of tea, sit down, put your feet up, because this one does go on a bit. Right, you ready?
Yeah.
Right, young Albie says, now, I'm reading this verbatim, right, so don't say, oh, he can't read things out very well. I'm just reading it as he's written it, okay? Went to Ipswich Saturday, which was, to put it lightly, shit. We left as soon as the third hit the back of the net because it was too hot and muggy and we really couldn't be arsed to wait to go home in conditions like that. I'll take standing in the cold 3-0 down over that sweat box of an away end any day. But I saw enough. I'm adding some dramatic, emphasis. Is that all right, or do you want me just to read it?
We like a bit of
right, I lacked it out.
improvisation.
But I saw enough. We weren't good enough and looked an absolute world away from Ipswich. Whether we'd fallen off dramatically since the last time we played them, or they've skyrocketed to sensational levels of improvement because it was night and day. Maybe it's a bit of both, but we didn't look like a top 10 side, he says. I've added that music in.
Right, okay, yeah, I like it.
He's not written that, I'm doing that myself. That doesn't mean we won't be. He's talking about top 10 sides. That doesn't mean, we won't be, but we have to improve and improve quickly. Last night, that is it, done now. That's his Ipswich done. The rest of it's about Vale, I think. Do you want to just keep going?
No, we'll come back to Port Vale then, I suppose.
So
well,
stop there, right?
I'll
stop it there.
After the Swindon game, after the Ipswich game, plucky little Ipswich, I took to Twitter again. As you may have noticed, readers, I have suddenly become more active on Twitter because I think it is probably the best way to communicate, because you shitheads won't send us any emails. Although saying that, we have got one from Steve Botley. So I asked the question, what's the problem? Is it the formation, quality of the players, inexperience, the time to gel thing, or need time to gel, or something else? And generally it's come pretty much the same. So MK Don's fan at PDMKD says formation and quality. I would buy the need time to gel. I would buy the need time to gel if we looked like we had quality, but that hadn't gelled. That's
a lot of gel in that, mate. There's a lot of gel in that sentence, mate.
Yeah, the injury to Mo is a big factor. From Sean, BFSC Sean, the chap with the only red 2007/8 shirt.
Oh, wow.
The fullbacks we brought in are not good enough to play in a 4. We need them to play the 5 for Lewis Stremp's 2, not necessarily playing our best position team. So Matthew says, I think it's probably a combination of all those. There were flashes of what we want to see at times yesterday, but we have a bit of a journey yet, unfortunately. Adam Jones, mix of these things. We didn't change to back 5 second half. We did change to back 5 second half. It's a mix of missing 5 stars in injuries and relying on the inexperienced players. Parson was crap today. Kept giving it to Plucky at Ipswich instead of ourselves, which allowed them to pin us down. And they do need time to get to gel, but it's still not helping having such inexperience in there. And those who do have experience, Louis Johnson, for instance, having poor games today. The other thing is we've played 2 favourites for titles who spent millions in experienced players, which is a very good point as well, obviously, because I think they will both be up there. Ipswich finally seem to have got their act together. Fraser Wiley, the quality isn't there. Too young, too inexperienced. They do need time, and it's a tough league. And we played 2 teams that will be there or thereabouts. We held Sweeting and Manning before the start of the season. Seems strange to doubt them now. Yeah, so much can change in a few weeks, can't it? Mark Dodding, he agrees with Fraser. Although if we get beaten again this week, there will be huge pressure on Manning and the squad. Desperately need some points to provide a little bit of breathing space. 2 more defeats and it's a downward spiral to the sack, potentially, however unjust. Fraser again says he thinks a win will be a confidence boost and it's what the group needs. Can't see Manning in any trouble job-wise. Last season we outperformed. We overperformed because of the squad and needed to quickly gel together, which they did in face of the manager walking out. Major huge difference. So there is that sort of siege mentality to it, I suppose. Jimmy James.
Jimmy James, that's a good name, isn't it? Jimmy James.
Jimmy James, his Twitter name's too difficult for me to say.
Is he a 1960s R&B singer, Jimmy James?
He could well be. His profile picture suggests that he is, in fact, a bicycle.
Sorry,
so
mate.
Jimmy is possibly a chopper bicycle from the 1970s.
Wow.
Yet to be confirmed. Let us know, Jimmy, if you are indeed a bicycle or a person.
Or a 1960s R&B star.
Jimmy says, wee! I'm on a chopper! We are 3 games in and have a whole new team. We fielded 3 players that played the final game of last season. Plucky at Ipswich fielded 6. Either give it time or Pete needs to put a few of the Facebook fans in charge, as they seem to have bags of experience on how to win promotion. I mean, seriously, we could put the Facebook lads in.
We'd be champions, Tony, every month.
We'd be, you see a different 11 every week
for
a start.
You would, yeah.
Yeah, Louis would never get a game.
No.
And we'd have all our players back from that we let go. You know, players like Aaron Wilbraham.
Yeah, he'd be back.
Willie Garay.
Oh, I'd have him back.
Mark D again, yep, all of the above. Unfortunately, the absence of a decent striker, and he also thinks that Johnson is not a striker when everyone is fit. He's not a starter, sorry, when everyone is fit.
Right.
We are being forced to play him every game currently as he's experienced, and Josh McEachran is out. Clearly being a decent player, but no longer in the engine to add real bite to the side, and he's not good enough to play make. I have to disagree with you there, heartily, Mark D. Because as I said a few minutes ago, I think that he will be spectacular this season. It just needs a few games. He's the sort of bloke that likes to run the game. I think he's got a lot of goals in him for a midfielder anyway.
Who are we talking about? Bradley Johnson?
Bradley Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, I must admit.
Just bear in mind that this is just after Ipswich, where he was apparently the worst player on the pitch. I didn't see, so I can't comment.
On that, but I'm glad to believe he was shit.
And then finally, Colin Goulding, who is a person, not a bicycle, says, personally think the manager had a very good squad last year and the best players left. We shall see if he's as good as many think. For myself, I remain to be convinced. Yeah, so a manager is only good as the players that he's given, I suppose. But to be fair, I'm fairly sure he would have had a say in those players coming to the club. So it's not like, these players have come here and they're unknown quantities. They would have been watched for a long time. Yeah. They will not have, they won't have any, no clue about what these players are like when they're brought in, of course. So, as we always say, fans can say what they like, but at the end of the day, it's down to the manager, it's down to the players, it's down to the staff, it's down to the attitude of the players and how the mood is. But it's a good point actually made earlier there about the manager leaving, on the first day of the season, and then the players then really have to come together, don't they? Because 1 minute you're on the pitch playing beside Dean Newton, and the next he's on the touchline as your manager. So you want to make it special for him, and there's the whole Hiram Boateng thing as well. So
yeah, where's he?
Maybe that's what we need. We need some drama before the start of the season to kick us in. Yeah.
Because I can read out the second part of Albie's...
yeah, go on. Let's have the rest of Albie's book.
Emphasis on the drama. Right. This is him, right. Last night against Vale, we started off frustrating again. I fear if we'd gone...
Hold on.
That's better, yeah. That is drama, that. Anyway, I fear if we'd gone a goal down, we'd have had a different result. Yeah, well, we would have done. It would have been 2-0 for a start. Because their defensive players were man mountains and would have likely defended better if that was their only objective. But we weren't, inverted commas, bad. I'm doing air quotes, but it didn't work on a podcast, does it? Just
Not
a lot
so
of what
much.
we've seen in spells of every game this season. Not all there. Inverted commas around that again. Communication. A lack of understanding of each other's position when the player in charge of the ball had his head down. Players missing gaps to run into. Space behind. Don't know what that means. I could go on, and fuck me, does he go on? Wait, honest with you.
I could go on, and indeed
And
does.
indeed, I'm just about to. I thought Lawrence was abysmal first half. I can't argue with that. He's right there. First half again, and I thought my promise of an early vendetta against him would come to fruition. I love an early vendetta against someone that you just...
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to have one, haven't you? You've got to have one.
I've got no actual... No. I've got no facts on it, but you're shit, mate. You will not...
I've seen you play 3 times and you're shit.
You will not change my opinion, mate. Lawrence was a bit about everyone did against him would come to fruition at the full-time whistle, but in credit to him, he was, in capital letters, much improved second half. Why? Because despite a 1-0 lead, Liam was brave enough to change it, and we looked so much more ourselves with a back three. He moved to the left and let that guy whose name I can't pronounce, Oyegoke, is that how we're pronouncing it?
Oyegoke.
Take the right. He was good. We'll be more than him in a minute. Take the right, and he looked a totally different player. Comfortable with the ball at his feet, energetic and confident. The change in formation was fruitful for everyone, and I wonder if Manning will start that formation Saturday. Well, I don't know, question mark. Special mention to Dennis, more about him in a minute as well, who was without doing much, having a few clear-cut chances. Do you remember the colour past the post? No. Do you?
Yes, I do, yeah.
All right. It was evident...
It's right in front of you.
Like I say, I wasn't very well. I'm not very well now. It was evident the gaffer let him get 90 minutes and experience being bullied for a bit, and long term that'll toughen him up. I don't know. I wouldn't like him to hit me. He's a big fella, isn't he? He dealt with it.
Well, we'll come to him because
he dealt with it well. He says.
Few things.
I'll be honest with you. Do you want me to stop now, or do you want me to just keep going?
No. I mean, we've got time, and you can just cut it out if you need to.
Bradley Johnson is a player I know well from watching him down the years, and he's always had a strike on him. 2 very well taken goals. Get him up to speed and he'll be a good player for us, albeit after a slow start. That's what you've just said, Tony Hawkins.
Do you know what? I even said up to speed, did I?
Well, that's possibly weird, isn't it? When you someone...
Maybe.
Albie's
but, you see, this is what I like. You see, Albie, he knows his stuff. I hate to say it, but he does know his
football.
stuff.
I can't argue
and
with
he does speak objectively
fucking
when it
does
comes
he speak objectively? Fucking, I've got about another half an hour to go. You ready?
Yeah.
Put the kettle back on, fellas. We'll be back in a minute. We still don't look all there, he says. But if we end the week with 6 points, I'll be a bit more comfortable than I was coming out of Ipswich, where maybe I was being dramatic. Well, not as dramatic as I'm being at the minute, obviously. I seriously thought we performed like relegation fodder. But as I said, now, he's put we're Ipswich. I think that's a typo in his part, so I'll just read it out as we're Ipswich that good, or we that shit. Were we that shit? A bit of both? Question mark on that. Roll on Aki and Watford away. I've got news about Watford away, and it's only good news for me, but I'm keeping that to the very end.
Righto.
So that's it. That is Albie. I'm going to have to sit down now and get my feet up.
All right, we'll do. Let's talk about Okie first, who actually must have listened to the podcast after Cambridge, because I can think of no other reason why he should start doing what I said he should have been doing. Possibly the manager may have mentioned it to him. I don't know. I'm just saying,
Tony Hawkins,
but
are a prophet without honour. That's what
I'm
you
thinking it's more likely that he's listened to this podcast.
Oh, he's a big listener, mate, yeah.
Do you know what? That bloke's right. I should be doing that. So what has he been doing, listeners? As you know, he does like to pull out wide, which is great, but he doesn't anticipate or doesn't make the runs. Last night, he was doing that. He was getting to the ball as well, and he was getting in some half-decent crosses. He was frightening defenders. I thought he was good, and that has made a massive difference.
I'll tell you what he didn't do, which I bet hardly anyone noticed. He tried a few step-overs a la Corbinu from last season, and I thought, mate, don't do that. Don't do that.
There should be a limit on the amount of step-overs a player
There
can
should
do.
be a moratorium on that. You've done one, you're Doesn't
Yeah,
she fuck
maybe
you?
maybe a maximum. I mean, 4 is a lot.
Four's a lot, Tony.
I get bored after 4. I really do.
Is that 4?
But no, he was
is
good.
that
He
4
was good, wasn't he?
individual ones, Tony, or is that a group of 4 different ones?
2 on the left, 2 on the right.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
Would you count step overs in pairs, like 1 left, 1
No,
right? Then
I would take it as one flowing movement. So if he does like 6 step overs in one like passage of play, then I would count that as one like step over, if you know what I mean.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean,
That's
I wouldn't
like
want him to do it, Tony.
it's
I
like the,
hope I don't see it again.
definition of a sandwich, isn't it?
Oh, what's going on? I'm interested. It's
Well-
fucking something between 2 slices of bread, mate. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
So a sandwich is 2 slices of bread with a filling. Am I
Yeah,
right?
You're correct.
So if you cut that in half,
Right.
whether it be diagonally or vertically,
Well, what about triangularly, Tony?
then that's cutting it diagonally. You end up
Oh,
with
right,
2
sorry.
triangles.
Ah,
Yeah.
well.
So a sandwich, 2 pieces of bread with a filling is a sandwich. If you then cut that in half, whether it be triangles or rectangles, are they a sandwich in their own right, or are they 2 sandwiches?
I think they're part of the original sandwich, if you ask me.
Yeah, but you would say, would you like half of my sandwich? You don't say.
Someone says to me, do you want half my sandwich? I'm expecting it to be cut exactly in half, not in fucking quarter. What you'd see is, would you like a quarter of my sandwich? I'm not having that. Tony.
No, you're not going to say that. You're not going to say, would you like 50% of this sandwich that I've just made? You'd say, would you like some of my sandwich? Or if someone says to you, what are you doing? I'm eating a sandwich. You wouldn't say, no, you're eating half a sandwich, would you?
No.
Well, some people would.
Some people would, yeah.
obviously
Because some
you wanna
people are
punch
idiots,
them,
Tony.
but-
That's why. They're idiots, mate.
Yeah, so that's the big question this week is,
Are
when is a
people
sandwich
idiots?
a sandwich and when is it not a sandwich? But no, I'm of the belief, and this is a sandwich is 2 pieces of bread
Yeah.
with a filling
Yes.
is a sandwich. But I mean, who eats a sandwich like that? You know,
No,
two.
you don't. You always cut it, don't you? Obviously.
Always cut. I'm not a savage. So for me, 2 pieces of bread with a filling cut in half, that's a sandwich.
That's a step over. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so how do you quantify step overs? JT's going for however many are within what we would call a movement.
Yeah.
So we call it a movement
A
of
passage of play, I
step
would say.
overs.
Yeah.
Passage of
Yeah,
play. Oh, no, let's give it a name.
A sequence of events. How does that sound?
Like you would say, a herd of elephants or a
murder of
gaggle
crows?
of geese. We'll
What's
call
that
it a flourish of step
Flourish of
overs.
step. Mate, this is why we are the number 1 MK Dodds podcast. But you have just...
This is why we get
Absolute-
6,000 downloads a week.
That's fucking brilliant. No, it's a flourish of step overs. That is fantastic.
A flourish of step overs, and there's no limit. There's no limit.
No.
It could be 1 on your left. It could be 1 on your right.
No.
It could be a combination of 10 left and
No.
right.
No. There's no limit. Who said that?
No.
No.
Who's that cricketer? I invented that song at Lord's. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
No, it wasn't at Lord's. Yeah, it was at Lord's.
Should we talk
Was
about
it
the
the
football, Tony? Do you think?
Lord's. It was Lord's. Mo. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's a spinner.
Ah, well.
Everybody will know. Everybody except me. Why can't I remember that?
No, I can't remember.
So we've ascertained that a
That
flourish
was good.
of step overs is an unlimited amount of step overs, but must be done within one movement.
Yes.
So that's what Okie Kokie does. And we liked him last night, and it was a great improvement in his movement and getting down that wing. Dennis, so
You want my
What I
honest
would like-
opinion on him? I thought he was man of the match last
I
night.
liked him from the second I saw
Yeah.
him at Russell and Diamonds,
He
and I
was
think
brilliant last night. What he was doing last night was one of the least enviable jobs that a centre forward could do.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're dreaming of playing
Yeah.
as a professional footballer and as a striker,
Go up there,
the
Chief,
worst nightmare
with
is,
your
is
back
having your
against
back
goal
to the opponent's
and let
goal
them
and-
kick the absolute shit out of you. That's what we want
But
you to do, son.
what did we're going to call it for the purposes of this podcast and being contemporary and up to date with the news, we're going to say that he didn't pull a Nunes, and despite being pulled, and I mean, he's a big lad, but
he's fast as well, Tony. Did you notice how fast he is?
Yeah,
yes,
indeed. And he did get pulled, and he did get pushed, and he got pinched, and he got punched, and he got elbowed.
He did.
But he didn't react. And
he took it in good heart,
much
Tony.
As you can ask.
He looks like a nice, well brought up young man. He took it in good stead. He thought, yeah, kick the shit out of me. We're winning, so fuck you.
Not going to bother me. I'm not going to react to it. And that's all you can ask of a centre forward in that position.
I thought he was brilliant, him last night. He really was.
Up there on his own. He had it all to do on his own, and you can't fault anything that he did. And he did have a curling shot.
I remember that.
I think it was actually went for a corner as well, if I remember rightly. I don't know how close it was to actually going in. I would imagine someone.
Oh, was it behind? Was it at the cowshed end?
If you should happen to know anybody in the cowshed that sits behind the goal,
was it at the cowshed end?
It was in the second half at the cowshed.
Yeah, I remember it because I remember being quite surprised that we'd actually got a corner off it, because I thought it had gone wide, but your man obviously got a finger.
Yes, I did, yeah. And that's why I think it may have actually been going wide, because it was. I mean, the cowshed give a bit of an ooh. By the way, how good were the cowshed
brilliant last night? Absolutely outstanding. The whole ground was good. I mean,
and I'm not saying this because they sang for a long time, but mainly because as I walked past on my way to Lewington's for my half-time pint with Gordon, I mean, Gordon's deaf as a post anyway.
Pardon?
But what? He, I actually could not hear anything he was saying. The noise.
Well, that's a result right there, isn't it, for you? But you were happy.
Well, that is definitely a result.
That's a bonus for you, Tony. Obviously. I should imagine.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk behind there when next time I see him.
Make sure you say it in his left ear, because that's his deaf one. You can't hear a fucking word. Bless him. So yeah, I mean, we haven't really spoke. We've had comments on last night, whatever. But what did you think yourself?
I thought that it was excellent. I thought there was a part of I can't think when it was, first or second half, one of those two halves, where they just kept going and kept going and kept going, and eventually everyone, and I'm talking East Stand, I'm talking, behind the dugout, everyone except me was joining in. It was fantastic. I thought they were really brilliant last night.
Absolutely.
But, it was great last night. The atmosphere was brilliant. Considering it was a Tuesday night, we've been a bit shit so far. It was fucking absolutely hoofing it down with rain. And I thought it was good atmosphere. It was brilliant. It really was. If I had not been so ill, I might even have, gently tapped my knee, Tony, to be quite honest, but I didn't.
Gently tapped you, in appreciation. It was. I mean, the match itself wasn't one that you wouldn't be putting that back on the old video recorder to watch back, would you? You'd be fast forward into the goals.
When we went into that first half, seriously, no piss taking. The first half, go on, give me your appreciation of the first half of that game.
Non-event.
Terrible, wasn't it? Absolutely, it was dreadful, wasn't it? It really was. I said to my son,
they actually had us pinned in our half for a good proportion of that.
That's
first
quite funny, because
minutes.
I think after about 20 minutes, I can remember thinking to myself, I don't think their goalkeepers had anything to do, has he, at all?
Well, the ball was barely in there. The ball was barely in their half, and
terrible.
It was. And again, I mean, we will come to this, because I've run a thing on Twitter. By the way, Tony. People. By the way, I've only got 100 and something followers, and I will be far more active. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to try and do a giveaway. I might have to retrieve something back from the MKDSA's.
I've given Willie Gavay's gloves away, Tony, so we can't have them.
That will be why no one knew what I was talking about last night.
They're in the Lewingtons behind a glass case, which is possibly the best place for them, to be quite honest.
Well, yeah, so I was thinking maybe giving those away. Again, just to boost the old profile on Twitter. Anyway, if you want to give me a follow, I would very much appreciate it.
Tony, what's your handle, mate?
at Tony Hawkins MK.
Well, that's easy to remember.
It doesn't get much easier than that, does it? At Tony Hawkins MK. So if you get a few seconds, I'd appreciate if you could tweet or me or retweet or share
tweet it
one
out
of my
on the old
posts
podcast,
just to see if we can get
Twitter
a few more follows. So formation, it seemed to make a difference last night when we went to a 5. As we know, the back 4 is not popular. I'm going to say
really?
I'm going to say it's not popular with our fans.
No.
So I ran a little straw poll, as they say, asking for Don's fans' opinions on our formation. So the choices were retweet for a flat back 4, if that's your preference, like for a 5 across the back. Now, I've collated the scores using a supercomputer or borrowed off NASA.
Right, go on.
And the final results were 100% in favour.
Really, 100%?
Of 5 across the back.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
100%. Not even someone on a wind-up just to be contrary opted for the back 4.
You've got a reply for that. You can read it out if you want. And you want me to read it out?
I was just about to, from Stairsy.
No, I got another one from someone else, but go on.
Stairsy says, we definitely played better with a back 5. Yes, we're having teething issues with new players, but I can see the potential in this side. And Tassie,
that's it. That's
who is a dog.
I know
I'm not sure what breed that is.
I can tell you exactly what it is. It's a black Labrador. I know them.
Oh, yeah, so it is. I've just expanded the picture. So, Tassie the black Labrador says...
Hang on, it might be brown. I can't remember.
Which is a fair point, Tassie, I have to say.
Translate that into human, go.
I will translate that to human. A back 5 is far more us. Louis can't really do left back anymore. The youngsters have the composure at the moment to
Don't have the composure, you idiot. Read it properly.
Sorry. The youngsters don't have the composure at the moment to pick a pass. Get rid is the order of the day. Usually it's the opposition. Dennis is a real grafter who will come good, I hope. So it's a good point about the back 4 not suiting Louis.
Yeah.
Because as we saw against Ipswich when their first goal, it was done for pace. He was never going to catch the bloke. He was too quick for even Louis to kick him up in the air. But as importantly, we know that under Russell Martin and then afterwards Liam Manning, Louis was the player with the most touches. He was the player that was passed to the most. He was League One's most effective defender, which I'm not sure how they quantify that, but because when you give him the ball, something usually happens, or you can pretty much guarantee will keep the ball. But playing in that back 4, he doesn't have anything in front of him.
Excuse me.
And he can't make the runs for himself.
No, he can't. No.
And even if he was there, he's not that player. So if we are going to play with a back 4, it has to be with Louis moving into the middle, I think, in the middle too, and having maybe Zach Jules out left. I don't know who it would be. But the simple solution is to go to a 5. If it means hacking the original idea to pieces, because the back 4, and I've noticed this season there are quite a few teams playing a back 4, and I don't know if that is as is typical with football, trying something different to make it a little bit more difficult for other teams to work out what you're doing. But whereas back in the day, we were all when teams started playing this back 5 or this 3 and a 2. It was, what was wrong with the old back 4? There was nothing wrong with the back 4. This is rubbish. It's not real football. But it's clear that the back 5 does make for a more entertaining, expansive game.
Seems to, yeah.
And particularly if you can play football on the ground, as we do. And that was what was noticeable last night. We went to a 5. It also happened against Sutton. We started to play the ball, albeit much closer together than we would probably like, because that back 4 restricts our movement out wide. But the back 5 gives us that, expands that play a lot more and allows the triangles that we're so good at. Whereas that back 4 is very not one-dimensional, but it feels like it.
There's an awful lot of long balls with that, isn't there?
Yeah, it restricts
boring,
the
really.
football that we want to play.
Yeah, it's not the kind of football.
And
We've said it on this podcast countless times. It's not the kind of football I'd like to see just coming hoofing it up the park all the time. You know.
Yeah, and I've spoken to Louis about it. We spoke to Russell Martin about it. I've spoken to Liam Manning about it. You know, why is Louis utilised so much? Because you have to have an outlet. You have to have that extra man, what is effectively that extra man, to relieve the pressure. And if that, you know, one, you're taking the pressure off the man on the ball. Two, you're creating a bit more space. And three, you should be in a position where you're less likely to get into trouble if it goes tits up. So that back five for me is an essential part of any setup, really. Unless your players are, you know, just the best players on the planet. The best teams use space and 1 and 2 touch football the most effectively.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think, obviously, when we went to back five, it made a massive difference, didn't it? We were better. We looked better. The football was more pleasing.
We
to
look
the
more
eye,
comfortable,
wasn't it?
and that's, you know, what you want to know is if
Why
you're
he's-
in a back,
why he's
if
going
you're
to
in a
back
back four, if you're Dean Lewin and you've got the ball and you're part of a back four, you know you can either go back to the man that just gave you the ball or the keeper. There might be a pass inside, but there's not going to be anything out wide. It's unlikely there's going to be anything up the wing. But if you're Dean Lewin in a three or a back five with the two wing backs, then you've got 4 more options, and that will give every player and the player with the ball, whether it be Dean Lewin or whoever it is, should then give you more options. And those options become those triangles that we were so good at last season and playing. And that's all the way up the pitch as well. And it leads to faster counter-attacking, it leads to faster movement. Again, more options as you're moving forward. So I just don't like the back four. For me, it's very... I am going to say one-dimensional. It feels wrong for us, and it doesn't look like we enjoy playing it either.
Not very good
Now,
at it either.
I have been told that our players don't suit that back five and that wide play, but make it work. Make them play that way. That's what I'm saying. I know we pride ourselves on not telling the manager what to do or how we should play, but I really do feel strongly about that back five, and the back four isn't. I mean, would he change the formation if he didn't think it was working? If he thought it was working, I should say.
Quite a lot of people have been saying this week, quite a lot of people, ones I've remembered, that this is a big test for Manning because he had a good team last year. He kind of fell into having a good team, which flattered him. And now this season's going to be more of a test for him than last season was. Can't really disagree with that, to be quite honest. I think that's a good point. You know, whoever was that said it. I'm going to say it was me that said it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to remember what we were saying a year ago, but I'm thinking that maybe there's it just feels like it's not quite come together, and putting your finger on the problem is difficult, but you know, it does look like.
I mean, it's still very early days, isn't it? It's remarkably early
it is
days,
very much, and game time, they wouldn't be on the pitch starting the game if they weren't good enough, and we have got the injuries, and there might be a couple of players on the pitch that maybe wouldn't be starting if others were available, but at the same time, they've got to be able to do it, and they wouldn't be brought into the club in the first place. So I remain, as always, optimistic and hope that those players can get it together. But there's still a lot of work to do. But we've got a first win, the first 2 goals. Bradley Johnson, worst player in the world, 4 days ago, goes and scores a couple. Nice finishes as well. I don't think the first one should have been allowed to go in.
I think it was a good goal, that wasn't it? Cracking.
It was
goal.
a good. It must have been very well placed. I mean, I saw it side on, obviously, but I don't know what it looked like from behind the goal. But it looked to me like the goalkeeper could have done a lot better. But there you go. So are we finished?
I thought he could have done better
and,
with the second one as well. To be quite honest, you know, when you think.
Well, he wasn't particularly well positioned, and the thing is that Bradley Johnson knew exactly where that was going before he kicked it.
You don't get to play in the Premiership and everywhere he's played by being a shit footballer, do you? Let's be honest, you know.
Yeah, I'm actually watching the second goal now, and the goalkeeper has favoured his right hand side, thinking that the wall is going to cover it. But I mean, there's a massive gap in their wall for it as well.
They weren't very good, them, to be quite honest. I mean, they just weren't. I remember that there was one of their players. It might even have been their centre forward who was everything their keeper was saying. The position of the wall, he was like changing it, and I'm thinking that's odd, mate. Are you like the kind of? I don't know what to say about that. I mean,
well, they had a bloke in front where the ball was telling them where to stand. The goalkeeper,
that was it. Yeah, him.
And Zoe was asking me, is he allowed to do that? I said, well, yeah,
I've never seen that before.
But it's unusual because it's the keeper that should be giving out those instructions.
I'll tell you what, I bet they wish it was the keeper that had done it. More of a chance of saving it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to Saturday. Appington Stanley, what do you reckon to that?
Accrington Stanley. So, as per usual, you never know what you're going to get from them, let's be honest.
Never, no.
You can expect a big physical team, similarly to Port Vale and Sutton, I would imagine. But I'm not so sure that they're a good team, I think. I'm always nervous about playing. And they pull out some results, don't they, over the years?
I still think we'll beat them. I'd be disappointed if we don't beat them, even if it's only 1-0. Or, I'd be... I don't know what to say. Like I said, when that last goal went in last night, that kind of annoyed me. I just thought, really don't need this. We're better than... we weren't better than them, I thought it was pretty much 50-50 last night.
Yeah.
But, you think he's a good goalkeeper, but you can only be as good as the guys in front of you, I suppose. So if they're kind of thinking... doing the old Swansea or the Rangers, business where you think the game's finished and it's not, Could be, I don't know what to say about Saturday, I really don't. I think we'll win, but that's as far as I'm going to go with my prediction, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think now we've won a game, there's no reason why we shouldn't win every game and keep a clean sheet.
Well, that is optimistic, Tony, I'll give you
that. You know me, I'm ever the realist. Yeah, I think if you're looking at it, even in the context of having lost our first 3 league games, we should be winning against Accrington Stanley. But they're just one of those teams that they never give up, they never stop.
Yeah.
And you've got to be very, very careful about not getting caught out. But they wouldn't be regulars now in League One.
Yeah,
had they not got something about them.
For sure,
they are probably the smallest club in League One by some distance.
Good. We should batter them then.
Yeah, but as we know, football isn't.
Funny old game, Tony. If someone said that once. Right, next Tuesday. What are you going first of all?
Right, I can't go. I've tried everything. I can't change my shift. I can't. There's no holiday left to book. I've got no time off in lieu to use. I've explored every avenue and I simply can't go. But by the sounds of it, you might know someone who is going.
Now, the guy who I work for, well, the guy that owns the company I work for, has got a box at Watford. And not only has he invited me to go, he phoned me today and said that he'd upgraded from the box to the old, whatever the tier above the box is. So next Tuesday, nice. We've got to be back from work quite early. We're leaving at 5:30. Loads of us, about 10 of us, I think. It's a table for 10. We're going to go down there. We're in the tier above whatever his box is, which is a 3-course dinner, all drinks included, and you can watch the match. The only caveat, Tony, is you're not allowed to wear what?
No colours.
No colours. I said, that'll suit me, mate, because I don't wear Milton Keynes Dons thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, it's pretty... I've never done corporate hospitality before. And I'm thinking Watford might be alright, to be quite honest, I would have thought.
Well, Premier League, pedigree and all that, so yeah, should be decent.
So that's that Tuesday then, mate. I might make a little, a feature of it next week.
I'm a little bit envious, mate. I'm a little bit envious. But I couldn't go anyway, so I'm going to watch it on I'm presuming it's on the old iFollow, so I'll spend me tenner and watch it on the telly.
So I'm being picked up at 5:30. We're getting a train. It's a 20-minute train apparently. It's a 15-minute walk from the train station to the ground, but we'll be stopping at a pub for some unknown reason. I don't know what that is. And we're going to go there. We're going to have a 3-course dinner, and then we're going to watch the game, and, and we're coming back. We're not coming straight back, apparently. We're going to the pub after it, and then I've got work the next day, so I don't know how that's going to go, to be quite honest.
Well, that'll be nice, too.
That will be nice, eh? So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, even if it's just, I've never done corporate hospitality before. I don't know what it's going to be like. It should be alright. I'm looking forward to it immensely. It'll be great. So that's my week. Beat that, anyone listening. Go on, beat that. You can't beat it. You can't be beating that.
No, you can't. As an experience, it should be done.
However,
at least once, I would say.
Speaking about next week, not only am I going out Tuesday night, unfortunately, my wife has organised for us to go out Wednesday night as well, so God knows what I'm going to be like Thursday morning, which means that I can't do next Wednesday for the podcast. Can we put it back a night to Thursday?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'd much rather not go out on Wednesday night, but well, that is what it is. I've been overruled by a higher authority, so...
Obviously.
So what are you writing about the game? Because it's very difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know which calibre of side they'll put out, and I don't think we'd put out a particularly great side, will we, either, So I don't know what to say about it.
I think it might be an opportunity to look at it as a sort of a throwaway game, where there aren't really any expectations of us pulling off any great upsets. I mean, I'm not sure it would be a great upset, but it would be considered, obviously. And I don't know what they'll do in terms of the sort of team that they want to be putting out. But
the general consensus
I'm going to say we're going to win.
Yeah, I'll say we'll win. I'm going to go 2-0 as well. I think we'll do them 2-0.
I'm going 2-1.
All right.
After going 1-0 down, we'll win the game.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
2-1.
I can't get excited doing that corporate hospitality box. I've got to sit there and go, oh, well done. Round of applause.
Well played, chaps.
Well done, fellas.
Well played, chaps. So we forgot to do a prediction for Accrington as well, didn't we?
I just said we'd win.
Just an actual score. Yeah. When I'm going to go. I'm going to go 5-0.
5-0's good, yeah. I'm going to go 7-4.
7-4 and 5-0. Right, they seem reasonable predictions, definitely.
Right, like I said quite literally about a minute ago, next week's podcast is going to be a day late because I've got something to do next Wednesday, which I don't want to do. I'm telling you now, I'm doing it under extreme sufferance. I'd rather not do it, but I've been roped into it, so it is what it is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Next week's will be a day later, and you'll all be thinking, I wonder how his corporate hospitality went at Watford. I hope he tells us all about it, which I will be.
Well, I've got a feeling you might well be, yes, definitely.
Right, that was a good one. I know that one's going to be funny when I go back and edit it, which I'm going to do now. I'm going to keep all the funny bits in and edit all the shit bits out, Tony. That's what I'm going to do this week.
So, yes, listeners, this week's podcast will be 33 seconds long.
Right. We will see you. Well, we'll be a day late. We'll see you probably next Friday.
Yeah. And don't forget, we don't have to send us a match report for Watford, but if you do want to send us email, Tony, mkdonsradioshow@gmail.com. But if you want to talk to us on Twitter, Tony Hawkins MK, @Tony Hawkins MK. That's where we're at these days. That's what I want to do now, is try and be a bit more lively. And again, as I said, if you could, please chuck us a few retweets and likes and a few follows here and there. That would be appreciated, because we're getting some really good feedback on the old Twitter.
I was surprised. I said to my wife, I said, this week's podcast is going to be about 3 hours long by the time we've read all these bloody tweets and businesses. Oh, you didn't read old matey's email?
Oh, sorry, Steve. Yes, Steve.
This is the last thing. After this, as soon as he finishes with the final goodbye, I'm pressing stop.
Steve Bottomley says, hi guys, thoughts? As always, League One is already proven to be as tough as any other season, and last night's results reflected that. 2 of the 3, that was Ipswich and Port Vale, obviously. 2 of the 3 teams that have beaten us were themselves beaten last night, which is a fair point. Personally, I don't expect much out of the Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday game, or didn't expect much from those Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich games, but Cambridge was a disappointment. I think it's way too early to be sounding the panic alarm, particularly when you look at the quality and number of players we lost at the end of last season. Clearly, there's something that the Liams have seen in the current incomings and his coaching that seems highly regarded away from the club, would suggest that he'll bring out the best in his squad. One or two may not cut it, but that's the way of football or any other job. For a period, I think we'll be one step forward, two back. Nothing new, and without being pessimistic, they come to fruition that may come to fruition this Saturday versus Accrington and Stanley. Tricky little team to beat for sure. Patience is the watchword for us all. And as my old man says, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Yeah,
is that him? Because I'm pressing stop now. That's it. I'm pressing stop. I said as soon as you finished that, I was
pressing the players stop. Unless they were good enough.
I'm pressing stop.
And with that, I think he's going to cut me off anyway.
I'm going to cut you off.